I decided to participate in Inktober this year. So Sunday was the very first day, and I decided to create this little pattern here. I'd like to just take a moment to show you kind of how these are done and really my preferred way of doing these. You can see that only the ones here in the front are kind of facing straight up. And then as you look at the ones that are further out, they're kind of tilted. So I'll show you a little bit about how I create that sort of tilt so it looks a little more angled like that. So let me just show you right here on this paper that I've got here. So we're going to make these spirals. So it's a nice little shape. Let me scoot over right here. I want to keep it in sight so you can still see it as reference right here. So how about there? That's good enough. So right here on this scrap piece of paper, I'm going to start with the pencil just so that it's a little easier to show you how it looks. And I'm going to draw it a lot larger so it's easier to see. So when you do your spiral, I just start with a circle, or if it's going to be an oval, then I'll make an oval. And so in this case, what I usually do is I start from the outside. And again, you can do this any way you want. This is just my preferred method so that I get the right dimensions. So I start from the outside, and as I work my way in, I keep these lines further apart. So what I mean here is, now that I've created the swirl, this area is thinner, and these areas here are thicker. By letting this be thicker and the outside get thinner, so like right here, I could even expand this a little further and edit my line. So it's more like this. So it gets really, really thin at the end. It makes it look more like, this is going to sound silly, it's going to make it look more like a cinnamon roll, which is actually a nice, appealing shape. I'm going to draw a small one over here on the side, so I'm going to create this oval. So it's like this oval. It's cut off a little bit because it's behind the other shape. So I'm going to make an oval. And on that oval, I'm going to draw it just a little bit differently. So when I come in, it is going to be thin. But then as I come this way, that swirl is going to start making its way towards the side. So it's no longer perfectly in the center. It's kind of working its way to the side. I'll do a few more later so that you can see. So let's add some ink in here to see what we can make it happen. I think I'm just going to grab a permanent marker. Let's see. I don't use this very often, but it's here, so I should use it. So here I'm going to draw a nice big thick line so it's easy to see. So I'm going to start making that swirl heading inward. And then in the end, I just make this little teardrop shape. It's not necessary. I just like to put it there just to remind myself. That's the end right there. I've got this one over here. Let's see if I can complete the swirl here. It's going to be much closer because the marker's so thick. But there it is. That helps it look like it's kind of lying on its side a little bit. So let's see. Just to do the smaller lines, I'm going to use just a regular size pen. This is a 0.5 millimeter. And when I draw these lines, so that these lines that you see over here, all these little contour lines, I like to start over here on this little peak, on this tiny little space. So let's see if I can add these in. I'm actually going to put these very close together. So they're just these little curves, almost like the belly of a D. And I'm just going from edge to edge. Little bump, little bump. And all this is doing is, like I said, this is a contour line. So what this is helping this is make it look less flat. So now it's got some dimension to it. It's not just a shape, but now it's a form. Essentially, it's a three-dimensional form now. Or at least it looks like one, of course. So I'm just going to keep adding these contour lines as I work my way around. And I'm just going to show you how I do it. I'm not going to speed up this footage at all. I just want to make sure that you're able to see kind of how I do it. I have a tendency to go back and forth, which when I first started doing this, it wasn't a good idea, really only because what would happen is these curves that I'm making, they would end up kind of getting skewed depending on the direction in which I was going. So I had to really practice to be able to make these lines without them being all wobbly. So it all comes down to practice as usual. So if you're trying to draw this and your lines don't come out perfect, just know that it does take practice. For some people, it takes a lot less practice. And for some of us, it might take a whole lot of practice. So just try to keep that in mind. It's going to be different for everybody. So right here, not all of my lines come out perfect still. They're a little wobbly. That's fine. I'm just going to keep going with it. So you see here that as I keep going here into the larger and larger areas, I have to keep adjusting the curve here. So I'll show you what I mean. Because this is a curved space and I'm trying to put these curves in, if I just kept going normally, like spacing them the same, I would eventually run into some trouble as I'm working my way around. So I'll show you what I mean. Right here, on the outside edge of this curve, I'm leaving a bigger gap. But here on the inside edge, it's right next to each other. So like that. So I'll show you another one. I'm not even closing it off yet. Out here, the gap is wide. In here, it's really tight. But what this is going to allow to do is these lines are now going to actually fill the contour properly, so that you don't start getting all these weird gaps over here on the side. So again, I'm going to make it really close right here. And as I work my way around, leave a much bigger gap right here. So that's what you want to do when you're working your way around these curves. So let me show you how I keep doing those. So it's wide on the outside, small on the inside, white on the outside. So like that. I probably want to adjust this just a little bit. Let me try to make it more curved, just so it looks more appealing. And I'm just going to keep working my way that way. You'll also notice that the lines just overall aren't so tightly packed, which I don't have to do. It doesn't necessarily have to be that way. It's just something that I have a tendency to do once the shape is larger. But we're actually kind of reaching the end here. I'm just trying to maintain that wider gap on the outside here. So I'm right here at the very last ones. And right here, I'm just going to add a few more curves. This area tends to be a little difficult just because it's so odd, but right here, here's the last one. I could even fill in that last gap if it feels a little awkward. So now it comes all the way in there like that, and that looks pretty good. I'm okay with that. And so if I were to work my way around these, I would actually just do the exact same thing. Let me show you how I do another one on the side. So this is just going to be practice again for these that are sort of on their side. It's almost going to look like a little teddy bear face with the round and then the two little circles for the ears. So if I were to do this again, it would be kind of thin right here. And then here's the circle, but it's kind of on the side. So that's what it would look like. So this one would be the one that's on its side. I'm actually wondering if I should cut this out later and add it to another drawing. That might be interesting. I might use this as a cutout and glue it onto something. But let me show you really quick how I do some shading with the pencil, and or if you're going to do some coloring. Actually, you know what? For this one, I'm going to use a colored pencil. So let me reach for one of those. Maybe some blue. So I'm going to use two types of blue. I'm going to use a deep blue and a lighter blue. Usually I like to use 2 or 3 colors. If it were my perfect day, I would also use black as well. But let's see how we can add some colors with colored pencils just to add some color. Add a little bit of depth here. So I'm just going to go around the very edge. Notice I'm not even very careful. All I know is I'm trying not to press hard with the pencil. I'm trying to be sort of soft. And right now I'm just using my darker pencil. Just going around the edge here. I know not everybody uses color pencils, but I figured this might be a nice chance to switch, because usually what I do is I do a lot of shading with just a graphite pencil. And I know not everyone uses that also. So I'm trying to take this chance to do something just a little different. I really do love to use color pencils. I just for some reason don't reach for them terribly often. So right here, I'm not being too careful about creating like the perfect look, but I am just trying to lay down some of this darker color around the edge and somewhat making a gradient of that coming out. So I'm laying down a little more of it along the very, very edge, just a little bit more. So you'll see it's darker. But heading inward from there, it kind of fades out. And it doesn't look so great right now for sure. It's going through that kind of messy stage. All I'm really doing is trying to add that shadow in first. Since these are the areas of the drawing that are deeper. So it should be darker in there. Okay, so that's good enough for what I'm doing right now. So let me see. I'm going to try to add some of this lighter color in here. So I'm going to start it fairly gently. Going to start adding that in. I'm hoping this doesn't turn out to be too dark, because sometimes the colors are a little deceptive. So you'll notice I'm kind of coming in circles. That's not too bad. I feel like I could have found a better blue, but that is perfectly fine. So I'm coming in with this lighter blue, and with this one I am pressing down more. Because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make sure that I get a nice solid color, that it isn't grainy. So I'm pressing, so I'm burnishing is what that's called. Pressing down harder. So the only places I'm not pressing down hard is around the very edges where I'm feathering. So see here where it reaches the white, I'm letting that soften. I'm getting really, really soft. So it's with this pencil that I'm being more careful. So I'm just going to work my way around that way. And just letting it feather out towards the very center. And I'm hoping I can cover up some of that scribbliness that I did with the darker blue pencil, but I might not be able to fix that, which is okay. I was being kind of messy with the pencil, so that's what happens. Kind of right here. Although it does hide it a little, it's okay. I'm not going to worry about it. So you notice I'm just working my way around the spiral, just kind of adding that light blue in. So this is really just helping fade the colors in. Depending on what blues or what colors you use, it's going to look just a little different. That's fine. And what might be nice if I actually swapped this blue out for some purple. Let's see if I can find a good purple here. I think this is a purple. Let's see what it says. Imperial Violet. That might be kind of nice. So as I work my way out, like out here, instead of it being just blue, now it's this kind of purple tone. Ooh, this one's way, way deep. It's pretty nice. I think I'm going to have to work harder at making sure that it doesn't take over too much. So of course, this is a Prismacolor Premier. Let's see what the other one was. This was a Prismacolor Scholar. Yeah. So they're from the same company, but the feel of them is just a little different. I think the Premier pencils lay down a little bit more smoother or creamier. So it actually takes a lot less effort to lay down that color. At least that's what it seems like to me when I use them right now. So I'm just going to finish off this edge here. But what I am going to do is I am going to continue using that light blue all the way around so that it blends in with those. So I'm going to do my best to kind of lay down a lot of pressure a lot closer to this dark black line. But as I head towards the white, I'm going to fade it as best as I can. So less pressure. So more pressure and then less pressure is kind of what my technique is right now. And this is a different pencil too. Let's see. I don't even remember. It's just a generic pencil I think I got from Target. But I liked the colors. They were nice, soft kind of pastel colors. So I was hoping that I could use them with some of the other pencils I had. And it works out pretty nicely. Sometimes I just have to adjust my technique a little and it works just fine. I'm trying to learn to be less fussy about my art supplies, basically. Just trying to accept them the way they are. So you'll see here I'm trying to blend the blue into this purple, and it's not as perfect as when it was the light blue with the deeper blue, but I think it works just fine. That's the whole point, is to have the color change here. It needs to look different. But at least this, I feel, helps it kind of overall merge together a little bit. But having that light blue still carry through. And I hope as you're watching me do this that you're noticing that I'm not really being too specific about the way I do things. I'm just coloring however is comfortable for me. I'm not trying to follow too many rules. Really only the rule about how hard I press. I think that one's been really important for me. And I wouldn't even consider it a rule. I think it's just a general kind of guideline for when I like to color. I'm just trying to make sure it's as enjoyable as it can be for me. So I would encourage you to kind of think about those things as well. Just trying to make sure you're having fun. Create quirky, weird things and just enjoy it. So there we go. This is our spiral. I think I'm just going to go ahead and do what I said I was going to do and actually cut it out, because I think this will be nice if I just join this to one of my other drawings. Because right now what I'm drawing on is a piece of scrap paper, and I do not mind at all just kind of messing around with it. So what I might do is, in a drawing, since I am participating in Inktober, I might just place this in another drawing and just kind of go with it and see how this can help me out. So this is, I already did day 2. That was today. And maybe this can be the central point for the next one here, or maybe I could put it over here for a couple days down the line. I can just have it there ready to go. So there you go. This is our spiral. I made a nice big one for this time. And let me know if you give this a try. See if you like it. I know it's a pretty simple design, but it's nice if you imagine a whole page filled with them or just put a few other nice elements around it. So there's our spiral. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.